right, good morning. It's Sunday Civics. Thanks for tuning in. My name's Tom Christie. I appreciate you. This is always the best hour of my week talking about civics and specifically civics in one location, the city of Niagara Falls, New York. It can be the best city in the world. So maybe it already is, but we're going to talk about how it works and how it runs. We've been talking quite a bit this year, at least the second half of this year, about, I guess, crime is the overall topic, but the issue seems to be a catchphrase, bail reform. Whenever there's anything that happens, the word bail reform comes out. You know, it snowed this weekend, and maybe it was because of bail reform. I don't mean to make light of it, but it seems to become a catchphrase. We've had criminal issues since time began, and we're going to have them forever. We're not going to eliminate them. But how do we work with it and reduce it? I'm not sure we're addressing that when we just say bail reform, or maybe we are. But Angela Morinello has been fantastic, bringing guests to us and leading that discussion. And a couple of guys in Seattle, Washington have helped us lead that discussion. I want to bring it back home to Niagara Falls specific. And somebody that has been on the show before, friend of the show, we like Trent Hamilton from the School of Entrepreneurial Thought on 19th Street. Now, if you don't know Niagara Falls, I would say the epicenter for Niagara Falls is basically 19th Street. It's not quite in that tourist district downtown, and it's not quite up near Tops where the retail shopping is. It's right in the center. And so if the city's ever going to become anything and what it is now, it's probably right on 19th Street. So that's probably why they located there. Anyway, Trent's with us, founder of the school. So Trent, thanks again for giving up a Sunday morning. I really appreciate it.
Trent, I'm the president of the school. Demetrius Nix is the founder.
Well, it's all the same. If you work there every single day for a whole year, you're pretty much involved.
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe tell us that history. Is it 1 year? How did this develop? What's the School of Entrepreneurial Thought? It's 1 year. So how'd you start?
In January to be our first year. Demetrius Nix had the ideal. It was just like, I don't know, the right thing at the right time. I was just getting out of jail and I needed somewhere to work. And he inboxed me and told me to come check it out. I was in a halfway house at the time. And I took a pass, and when I went there and we got to talking about the ideals, and I had already had a similar ideal, and the rest was pretty much history. I told him I need to be a part of this, and we got to make it work with the halfway house. And a year later, we've done, some amazing things. Not only just being in the community on 19th Street, but just for the whole city. Well,
you seem to always be doing the most important thing at the most important time. Like yesterday, you were on the front page of the paper getting the COVID shot. The COVID shot has sadly become political, but it's crucial. And you were out there leading the charge by saying, hey, we need to get vaccinated. We'll host an event. We'll host a vaccination clinic, right?
Well, actions speak louder than words. And being a leader, you have to lead by example. I was on the fence about it for a long time. And some people that I knew had passed away, and they were my parents' age, not that old, in their 50s. And it kind of it was like a wake-up call, like, Trent, it's time. And I called Dr. Rolanda Ward. She's one of the heads of the COVID task force. And I said, we're ready to do a clinic at the school. Don't worry about the numbers. We'll get the numbers, because I knew that me and the Vice President Anton were going to take it, and Mimi was going to come back to get his booster. So that alone made so many people come and encourage them to get their first shot,
Yeah. Is it as simple as you're not even just doing this one? So it is as simple as you set one up and people come in. What do you need to get a shot these days, in case anyone hasn't? Do you need, I don't know, what do you need to get a shot?
Man, they just asked you some basic questions. You really didn't need anything. They didn't ask for ID. They asked if you had insurance, you could put your insurance information, but really nothing. If you had already got a previous shot, they just asked for your card so they can put like it was your second shot or your booster. And that was it. It was very simple. It was very simple, very simple. We just had to call a couple weeks in advance and set it up with the COVID task force, the Memorial Hospital. They have vaccine partners, and they set it up with Memorial Hospital, which was one of their vaccine partners. And it was very simple. They accommodated us real easy.
Yeah. Segue and transition right into the crime issue. I guess we were talking earlier about that COVID unemployment. There's so many things in the news that we just throw it all at bail reform as this stuff. There's a lot to work on, isn't there? And that all comes across your threshold and front door at the entrepreneurial school, right? I mean, it's all there. Crime is just 1/10 of it, really, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, every day I'm dealing with convicted felons, people that just were released from jail, and really, I'm in a marginalized community dealing with marginalized people. So when we get to the topic of bail reform, that's dear to my heart because I sat for 4.5 years in Niagara County on a pretrial incarceration for a nonviolent victimless crime. So when you talk about bail reform, I hold there, even though it wasn't, I wasn't being held by New York State, I was being held by the feds on a martial remand, but it was pretrial detention. And I really was able to get less time because my due process rights were violated behind that. But I've seen hundreds of people come through Niagara County, and it's really, it was time for bail reform. We know that incarceration rates raised without crime actually raising because they had created so much of a cash cow in it. And it became a way to lock up poor and mentally ill people. The #1 funded housing program for low-income people isn't HUD. It's the Department of Corrections. And that needs to be fixed no matter how you look at it. We understand that when you talk about bail reform, it's not meant for violent people with firearms. It's meant for these non-violent, low-level criminals. So when they prior guests you've had, Angelo Mortinello, the sheriff of Niagara County, all they're doing is being loyal to their base when they talk about bail reform. I mean, he's a sheriff. He's if people stop going to jail and they stop having so many numbers at Niagara County, then you would naturally think their budget would decrease. And people he works with day to day may need to find other jobs. So for him to continuously say bail reform, bail reform, bail reform, is the reason why crime. Tell them to come in and tell them to study crime then, if that's the case. Because we know what. Okay, come on.
No, can you just start right at the beginning? What is bail supposed to be for? I just thought I get arrested. They put bail on me so that I come back to trial. Like I come back on my dates. That's it. Like just make sure I come back. Or that I'm a threat. You know, I domestic violence and I don't go back into my house and do it again. So I don't know what bail actually is for. Can you start there?
Well, based on the Constitution, you're only supposed to be denied bail off of 2 grounds, and one is to be a flight risk, and the other, if you're a flight risk, and the other is if you're a danger to the community. So now, if you're a flight risk or a danger to community, we understand you can be denied bail. Now, I think it's under the 8th Amendment, you're supposed to be given a reasonable bail to not cause a disparity. So too often we've seen, you know what Lady Justice looks like, blindfolded with the time thing. Yep. So now they've abandoned that. You know what I mean? With this whole bail thing, a lot of times people have been sitting in jail basically because they're poor. You know what I mean?
And bail is given by who? The judge? So I get brought up, I get arrested tonight, I go arraignment. The judge says I'm a flight risk. Who says I'm a flight risk? The judge.
He makes a determination. The prosecutor may bring that allegation up that you're a flight risk. And based on, hey, a lot of people that are lifelong residents, how can you be a flight risk? But if you get a rich person that's got a passport and connections to different countries, they're the ones that are often deemed to not be flight risk. Yeah, it's so crazy.
Well, say I did, whatever my thing was, because people generally do the same thing over and over. And so I got bail reform and they let me out, and I wasn't a flight risk. But, I did it again and they caught me again. And I did it a third time and they caught me a third time and they can keep me right now. I'm not a flight risk, but I'm not a danger to the community. But, I kept doing the same thing, stealing cars or whatever. I kept doing it every time they let me out. They can say, hey, the judge's discretion, the prosecutor's discretion, this isn't working. You're going to stay tonight. You're going to stay for a while. They can do that already, right? It's not like catch and release, a revolving door. No matter what you did, you're going to be let go because of Cuomo, right? I've heard all that from police, right?
Yeah, exactly. Certain things, if you're a nuisance, they're going to keep you. Bottom line. It's not, like you said, the judge has, they act like the judge's hands have been absolutely tied in these matters. No, they haven't, because you look at the Niagara County Sheriff's Act, there's a whole bunch of people sitting in there with on pretrial detention. So they obviously, there's circumstances, whether they got caught with a gun, if they're parole violators, things of that nature. Listen, this is real funny, right? And there's a kid named Billy Betten. He killed 2 people in Niagara Falls. He was arrested on a first-degree murder. And he was detained without bail, but he had also a parole detainer. So after however much time they could hold the parole detainer was uplifted, and they put it in the paper as a thing about bail reform, right? So like, a convicted murderer has his, not a convicted, a person accused of killing 2 people has his parole detainer lifted. But we knew that he wasn't going nowhere because he was indicted on a first-degree murder. Now I'm gonna tell you where this holds dear to me. He killed my aunt and my first cousin, killed brutally, stabbed my aunt 11 times, shot her 4 times. But I read the article and I just seen behind the BS. I'm like, well, I know he ain't getting out nowhere. People in my family got all nervous, but I had to explain it to them. Come on, Nate, they're using that. They're trying to basically politicize this thing by saying like he could possibly get out when we know he ain't getting out. The judge ain't gonna let him out. He killed 2 people.
Well, but I see the opposite. What if, because they're upset with bail reform, they're going to make a statement by releasing that guy? They're going to play the political game of saying, well, it's bail reform, so we're letting him go, and that would be a disaster, right?
Well, yeah, we're gonna have confidence the judge wouldn't be that irresponsible just to prove a point. I mean, that would be a little too extreme. I mean, no, I wasn't. I didn't think they would get that outrageous. No.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you when we went micro and what is bail, let me go macro and say, what put the gun in that guy's hand anyway? The knife in that guy's hand anyway? Is it the economy? Is it something? I mean, how do we attack, bail reform by stopping crime and having a better community? Or is that just, do I live in a fantasy world?
When we're raising our kids, we don't raise them with a gun. We don't raise them to be criminals. Things happen along the way of life, and we know that education deters crime. We know that home ownership could deter crime. When people have things to lose, it deters crime, right? But when you continuously divest in certain communities, you close schools and after-school programs, and you make more room in the county jail, naturally more people go to jail. Crime goes up.
So why have we done that? We've done it specifically and intentionally. Why? Why did we do that? I don't understand.
I know we have to ask some of the powers to be, and I know specifically in the Black community and really lower socioeconomical communities, when you're worried about your basic needs, it's hard to vote, go to city council meetings, voice your opinion on things that are going to directly affect you and yours. You know what I mean? There's in psychology, there's Maslow. He has his pyramid, and basic needs are at the bottom. So basic needs will blind you a lot of times, and you can't see beyond that. And people haven't really been too much involved in politics, and it's led to our city being mismanaged throughout the country. Though it's not just Niagara Falls, in a lot of places. And money speaks volumes. So the prison industrial complex, it's a cash cow, billions and billions of dollars, and so that speaks louder than the voice of a couple activists.
Yeah. I like when you said the whole country is facing this. Absolutely. But I kind of like to turn that around and say, yeah, the whole country's facing a lot of stuff. I only care about here. We can create a utopia. And not that I only care, but we can change anything. We have all the money in the world. Money's not the problem. We can change everything you just said. We can change from mass incarceration, that the largest public housing program is prison, to the largest public housing program is now, public housing. We can do those things right here in Niagara Falls. We don't have to wait for anyone else. And why aren't we is what, my whole essence of being is now. Like, I don't care about, federal government and Biden's insane and Trump's a jerk or whatever. No. We're only right here. And we can create whatever we want in our bubble. We can change anything we want and have a city that's different from every other city. And I don't know if people believe that yet.
Listen, my boy Demetrius Nick says it all the time. He says, the city that believes, we're going to be the example for the world. So, I mean, slowly but surely, we're going to keep working at it. And like I said earlier, leaders lead by example, and we're going to have a city that leads by example.
So in bail reform specifically, it needed to happen, is your opinion? I mean, it was out of control and needed to be adjusted, but has it gone too far? Is it good? Does it need to be tweaked? I hear that debate.
Bail reform is a Band-Aid on a bazooka wound, man. The larger thing is criminal justice reform, and bail reform so small. You see when they let the people out, I forgot what it was called, something with Hochul signed. It was like a parole. It was only about 10 people got out of jail. It wasn't like we need more legislation. With bail reform, the rights of the accused are some of your most precious rights. That's been abandoned. Like I said, there's a multi-tier criminal justice system, and bail reform is one of the things. I just seen an article the other day. What's his sheriff's name? Felicetti or something?
Sheriff Felicetti, Niagara County Sheriff.
His son was arrested for DWI, and it was later dismissed, right? So those are some of the hardest charges to get dismissed, drinking and driving, because it's real cut and dry. So, hey, I know that my son won't get the same shake his son got at that. Now, if his son sat in jail the whole time while he was waiting for this case to be dismissed, I bet you he'd have a different look at bail reform and things like that. So, it's just a bunch of BS when they come with that extreme view. Like I said, it's just catering to a base.
Well, now we go into a whole different thing. I mean, you're talking about taking that blindfold off the Lady of Justice there with the scales. I mean, what does the public see anymore when whatever happened in Lewiston, that kid, or the sheriff's son, or you got a trial coming up, one of the Republican operatives in a campaign for the DA is on a rape charge. What do you? It's not even like outrage anymore. It's indifference. They're going to get off. That's because that's how that system works, right?
Right. They totally abandoned him. They threw off the blindfold. They threw away the time thing. I mean, that's why criminal justice reform is so important. There some people wake up with an unfair advantage, and I don't want to go to saying it's all white privilege or it's a class status thing, but it's wrong. I should get the same shake that you get.
Yeah,
and that's not happening. And the people that speak upon these things are the ones who are getting that really, if it comes time to their children or their family to go in front of a judge or something, they get the real unfair advantage, not a poor person who gets out of jail on bail reform, who, if he's convicted of his crime, he's going to go to jail anyway.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what they fail to realize in bail reform. You still have that crime. You have a criminal matter. And if you're convicted, you're going to jail. Just whether it's now or later. You're just protecting the right of the accused.
It seems to me like we've become indifferent, like we've accepted that justice isn't blind anymore. It's become a joke. And you have to live outside the law now because the law isn't going to do what it's supposed to do. I kind of feel that. And you know what, culturally, I hate this term, but I'm a big football fan, and Bill's Mafia, right? Well, Mafia is an organization that works outside the law. And now we go and we have the NFL endorsing the word mafia, right? We've become totally indifferent to systems set up to skirt around the outsides of the law. That's what I can't get my head around. It's not going to work if justice doesn't wear the blindfold anymore.
Right. Hey, like I said, it's become a mockery of the Constitution. There's so many things that need to be changed. I always say that to say the system is broken is a misstatement. The system is designed on how it's supposed to, it's working how it was designed to work. And sometimes we need a whole systematic overhaul on things.
Back to bail reform. Does some people say it needs to be tweaked. Does it need to stay the way it is right now, or tweaked even more, bail reform instead of tweaked less bail reform type of thing? Where is that headed? Because I don't see it going away. It'll be a talking point in the governor's race this whole year. What does it need to be tweaked?
Well, of course, I just said that bail reform is just a Band-Aid on a big gunshot wound. Criminal justice reform is what we need. We need we need sweeping changes. Bail reform was just something small. It doesn't even affect a lot of people. We need major legislation. So we need to get the numbers down of people being incarcerated. I forgot the exact number. I think 5% of the world's population, but we have over 25% of the people in prison in the United States. So, that doesn't even seem right for a country that considers itself to be a leader amongst the world. You know what I mean? And
but let me go here then. Again, we have to deal with reality. So when I find this. The war on drugs was such a joke where we now discredit anybody who ever was on drugs. And it used to be, did Bill Clinton inhale was a stupid comment, right? But now if somebody, if this happens in rape trials, oh, the woman was raped. Well, she took drugs 2 years ago. Well, so what? She was raped. It doesn't change what happened. Like the war on drugs became, no, you're a drug addict, so forget it. Anything you do from here on forward. So prison reform. You come out of prison, not you, but anybody, you now got this label like for life. You're not allowed to do anything anymore. How do we come to a better understanding of all of ourselves? How do we change that impression that, yes, I had a drug problem once, I don't anymore. I'm not a liar for the rest of my life. Yes, I was in prison once, I'm not anymore. I'm not unemployable, stupid, and a jerk. How do we come to that conclusion anymore? We're so isolated now.
There's a term they call it when you get arrested, you're locked up, but when you're released, you're locked out. So being released and a convicted felon, you're locked out of so many different things. We just got to continuously educate people. There's so many people that wear suits and ties that haven't been arrested for the things they do, but they commit crimes every day, whether it's stealing, criminality's been a part of America since the beginning of its time. This land was stolen from people. You know what I mean? So that was a crime. And we just have to understand that just because people committed a crime at a time in their life, they're not bad people. They deserve a chance at life and liberty like everyone else.
So one of my passions, though, when we focus on one place, Niagara Falls, as opposed to bail reform, criminal justice reform, is that there isn't blame necessarily, but there's culpability. We have people in our community who did X, not the general thing. They did it. That specific person did that thing. When is it appropriate to call everything out and say, we can't have this anymore? You did it. You specifically are in charge, whether it's the city court judge for doing something, whether it's garbage pickup, somebody's responsible for the way the city is. A human being did everything. It wasn't a tornado, bad example from last week, but when do we start getting specific and saying, I'm not, and let me say, we just came through an election for city council in New York, in Niagara Falls. And I didn't hear any one of the 6 candidates, all fine people, and thank God they ran. 7 candidates, one was a write-in. The 7th one, let's take off the table because that person did come out and say things. I didn't hear any of the 6 official candidates have a position on something specific. I will attack modern garbage pickup, modern being the corporation. I will attack streetlights. I will attack the sheriff. I will attack the mayor for not letting the city police chief ever come on and talk himself. No one had a specific, first time in my life I've ever seen a campaign where everyone just said, vote for me. I think I'm a good person. When do we get specific on this stuff?
Yeah, you're right about that. One thing about city council too, and which is unclear with a lot of people from the community, is what power do they actually have? What can they do? You know what I mean? So once we know what can they do, then we say, well, I want to see you do these things. You know what I'm saying? So, Niagara Falls doesn't have districts with city council. It's city councilmen at large. So I don't know. I've challenged a lot. I got a direct. I can directly get in touch with Dante. I consider Dante a friend. The rest of them I don't know. So I can holler at Dante, and I want to set something up to where they can come and specifically speak at the school and speak to, like I said, these marginalized people in this marginalized community, because whether they voted for you or not, and especially with city council, you're their city councilman at large. You know what I'm saying? So, I agree with you though. It gets confusing. You can sit at the meeting and listen to them, and then at the end of the day, you don't know what the hell they can do.
Well, even what they can do, though, we got, talking doesn't matter. We this summer just came up about it. Simple as grass cutting, right? They don't cut the grass. And the answer from the council president, who I respect and I like, was grab a lawnmower and go cut it yourself. I mean, Trent, it's $100 million budget. I don't want to go cut the lawn myself. Celino and Barnes would have a field day with this, right? Cut your foot off and you'll own the city. It was a weird answer.
I was just at the it's called the Highland Avenue Block Club. They had a meeting it's some kind of like a hospital thing on Highland Avenue, and one of the guys, his name is Pastor Fagan, I think. He's the head of public works, but I guess there's a number you can call, 311, and they have a cleanup crew, and for certain things like that, to cut grasses and clean stuff up. So I guess you got to call and continuously complain to this 311 number, put these complaints in, and they would I guess they'll take care of the issue when they get around to it.
Okay. This is civics, right? So the Chinese tourist who came to Niagara Falls to spend money isn't calling 311, and the grass looks like crap. So, I don't just want to call when the rats are running through my neighbor's yard. I want it looking good. You didn't take a shower this morning because somebody made you. You did it because you do it. I mean, that's such a specious argument to me that go ahead. Sorry.
We got to get these people to be proactive instead of reactive. So, I mean, we just got to shake them up.
We can keep going through the tick down the list, because I don't mean to pick on the council president. He came on and that's what he said. But you know what? The next thing we had on was the head of public works. Head of public works comes on and says, we don't have any employees. Why don't you have any employees? Because we pay $12 an hour, and you can't get anyone for $12 an hour. Well, no kidding, you can't get anybody. Why is government paying somebody $12 an hour? I mean, we have ticked through who's in charge, what's up, what's going on. And you know what, Trent? At the end of the day, now, one of those 6 council candidates came forward and said, I will change and pay more than $12. They said, I wish that grass was cut. I need more. I don't need more. I'm nothing. I'm just saying, if we're going to look like, pick any place, but right across the river would be Niagara on the Lake. Looks like a goddamn garden when you go over there. Every street is a beautiful corner, right? How do we make it look like that? I kind of want it to look like that. We went right to the heart of it. The public works guy said, I don't have the money to do it. They won't authorize anything for me to pay for it. So we got to the bottom of it, and we couldn't have one council person say, I'm going to allocate more money to it. Not one.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. And look, those go back to some of the things I said about crime. Give people these good paying jobs, decent paying jobs. Give them decent paying jobs out. They're less likely to commit crimes. Instead of us talking about ways to lock more people up, keep more people in jail, you spend 30, I think it's around $36,000 a year to keep someone incarcerated, but you won't give them a $36,000 a year job. You $12 an hour.
Correct. Exactly. Exactly. We don't even have city people picking up city trash. We hired an outside firm.
Modern, yeah, outside. Yeah.
Right. And they can escalate the fee. As we learned this year, they raised the fee $400,000. So you're paying $400,000 to an outside firm. Every year they can escalate the fee. I don't, like you said, when do we, all those 6 council candidates were great people. And the 5 councilmen, white men had actually been, it was weird. They're fine people too. But when do we start saying, no? When do we take Dante, who gets sworn in on January, and say, no, you're a good guy and you're our friend, but you need to pay more than $12 an hour? I mean, specifically today, like, will you answer this question? $12 an hour. When do we get rude? I guess that's rude. But when do we get rude? When's the time to, I don't know.
The time is right now. Let's start calling them out. Let's start holding them accountable. And that goes to what I was saying about getting more people registered, more people out to the polls, and more people aware of how the city works so they can start to hold people accountable. And if you don't do the right things, you're out of there. You know what I'm saying? Bottom line, you're out of there. You see, the county court judge, Michael Murphy, he's the one that made that decision to the boy with the rapes in Lewiston. He's retiring, I guess, but he should be out of there. People that abandon their neutrality, they're not living, or I guess elected officials that aren't living up to the standard, get out of there. If you're not doing your job, get out of there. You know what I'm saying? We got to get you out of there. We can still be friends, but you're not the right person for the job.
Right. I think every council person or elected official wants to keep their job. They want to do what you want them to do. So if we just tell them what we want them to do, then they can't say, well, you never told me that before. We have to speak out, not rudely, but directly, so that they know what we want. And then if they don't do it, like you said, well, you're not the right person for the job. But a lot of times we don't speak out directly enough and say, no, we need you to do this specific thing today. Like the 311, I during the previous mayoral administration, I had heard that that's just the way it was. You're not going to get your lawn cut unless you call 311. Well, it's not a landscaping service. I don't want to have to call 311 just every time I need the lawn cut. Do it regularly. So there's been lots of mail.
Where are we being proactive at in the thing? Stop being reactive. It doesn't make sense to wait till the grass is 5 feet high to cut it. You know what I mean? We need somebody on that weekly. You know what I mean? Clean the city up. And as far as how that goes with council, we have to get the community more involved in those council meetings. To speak up and to show up. I mean, we got 50,000 people, and you had 10 people at the council meeting. Yeah. So right up that alone, there's no one there to hold the people accountable. No one's even really paying attention to what they're doing, what they're talking about, what they're voting on, things of that nature.
Well, let me go back and tell me again a little bit about the School for Entrepreneurial Thought, how people can find out more, get involved. I get most of my information either by talking to you directly or Demetrius directly or on Facebook. I mean, how can people know what is the most important thing to focus on in Niagara Falls these days? How can we tune into what you're talking about?
Listen, 11 to 5, Monday through Friday, I am at the Entrepreneur School of Thought. This is what I always tell people, pull up. If you want to just sit, talk, just observe things, pull up. We also have an Entrepreneur School of Thought page. You can follow the page. It'll let you know events we're having and certain posts we put up. You can follow Demetrius Nix He's got a We All We Got page. Antoine White, he's the vice president. He puts things that we do at the school up on the page. We have a women's group, Inspiring Sisters, every Thursday for women to be involved in. We have a couple a self-help healing class called Balancing With Me with Unica Lewis. That's on every Thursday at 6. We have another one, I Hear You Sis, for people going through trauma. That's every other Monday with Joy Robinson. So come on, we're doing a lot of things for the community, in the community. So if you can't pull up, you can, we do a lot of things via Facebook Live, which is, it's not quite the Zoom thing, but we tape it so people can watch. But I like for people to actually come. So you can get the full experience of the school, the location, the people around, you know what I mean?
Is it a situation also where people can donate things, either, furniture, supplies, cash? I mean, you must need things to operate on a daily basis.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, we don't get no money. We're not funded. We're actually funded through one of Demetrius's his dumpster business. So money from the dumpster business we put back into the school, but we don't get money from no one. Anything we've had, people it's community work. The community comes and donates it, and we make it happen from there. There's been several times we fed the community, and me and Anton paid money out of our pocket, bought food stamps and bought hot dogs and hamburgers and fed anybody that walked by. You know what I mean? So just showing about a community effort, once people get involved and they donate and stuff, then they start feeling a part of things.
Mm-hmm. And priorities for 2022, just more of the same, or do you have an agenda? It's going to be a governor's year election-wise. It's going to be non-city elections. I guess the state will be, running. The state officials will be running, but.
And we're going to continue to serve the people. We're going to continue to encourage people such as Tom Christie to come be involved in any capacity that he can be, not for me to come up with the ideal, but for him to come up with the ideal, say, this would be great, I'm going to do it, and I just look for us to continuously grow. We're a lot of people are sitting back and they're watching some of the things we're doing. We've been getting, we had 3 newspaper articles the past, I think, 4 days. You know what I mean? So we're getting recognized, and it's open. It's encouraging, put it like that. It's encouraging for people to get more and more involved. And I just look for us to continuously serve and help make Niagara Falls that model city.
I would be interested in working on the priority list. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do one and you can't do the second thing until you do the first thing. You're building a house or building anything. You got to have a priority list. I've been asking for a full year, people in Niagara Falls, what's our number one priority? Number one over everything else. And I would think it would be, staying alive and getting economics and jobs. But I don't know what that list is for everybody. It's different. I don't know what the city has. If we asked new Councilman Dante, what's your number one priority? I mean, I'm not sure what to tell him would be our number one priority. So I'd be interested in coming over and trying to hash that out. It's not an easy question.
I know you probably have 50,000 different answers. Everybody in the city will have a different answer. But then, you know what? The things that are common, we have to let these common interests bring us together and strive for those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. When we have 50,000 different answers, you're absolutely right. But that gets us what we got, which is no focus. And right. Until we change that and have one focus, it's like herding cats, until we have one focus, we won't get anything. I hate to say it. So that's why I feel that's so important to have a focus. Until, your number one problem becomes my number one problem. Right. And then my number one problem becomes your number one problem. Until we get to that point that I understand what you need and you understand what I need, we can't ever make any progress. And I believe what you said earlier with the phrase, kind of, it's not broken, it's built this way. They want us to not be organized. They want us to not have our act together type of thing, or a priority list. And then if we did have a priority list, I think they would respect it and achieve it because they want to stay in power. So that's what I'd be interested in working on with you, in the first part of this year.
Exactly. You know, one thing I always tell people, like the status quo, the people that have been doing the same things for years and years in the falls, they like the low voter turnout because it's likely to keep them in power and keep people uninformed. But when you want revolutionary change in the city, you have to get more people involved, more people vote, and more people aware of what's going on. So I mean, that's a thing that I think just the for more people to be informed in the city, to be involved in the city and how it operates, how it works. Once you're familiar with it, then I mean, you're probably more likely to hold people accountable, press for change instead of just continuously be content with the same old same.
Yep. Trent, will you come back again often throughout the year? I'd like to work with you, together on things and priorities. I haven't had you on enough. I wish you'd come on more often. Well, I mean, you've come on every time I've asked. I don't mean that. I want to ask you more often.
Now, I have a hard time telling you no.
I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah.
Trent, thanks for giving up a Sunday morning. I really appreciate it.
Man, thank you for having me.
Happy holidays. I hope for the best, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, bye-bye. All right, Trent Hamilton. Mike runs the board here, so he'll clean up our technology as we go along. But we've had Trent Hamilton from the School of Entrepreneurial Thought, which is on 19th Street in Niagara Falls. And you can find him online, and you can go there every day and check them out in person. So thanks to Trent Hamilton. Thanks to the School of Entrepreneurial Thought. Demetrius Nix has been on before as well. This is our last show for 2021. We will take the next 2 weeks off because Christmas falls on a weekend and New Year's falls on a weekend. So we'll be off. We'll be back in January. Thanks for watching. Have a great year. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.